Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about Asperger syndrome. Have you ever met someone who seems a bit odd, maybe a little different from you, kind of feel uncomfortable and guilty for feeling that way? I've been there. Maybe you've met someone who has Asperger syndrome. They accidentally create awkward social situations. But if you understand the disorder better, you can more easily diffuse that awkward tension. I have been researching Asperger syndrome on the CPCC databases, and I have an uncle who has Asperger syndrome. He's very dear to me and my family, and he struggles with it every day. I have 3 points. 1, what Asperger syndrome is. 2, the behavioral manifestations that can be seen in the classroom setting, and 3, how these individuals make an impact in society. So to begin, what exactly is Asperger syndrome? It's a neurological disorder that affects how a person communicates and interacts with others socially. They are very highly intelligent, but it doesn't quite communicate to their studies or in social situations. The causes of Asperger syndrome is still not very well known. It's a new disorder that we have discovered. There has been some tie to genetics. Researchers have found that it may be hereditary, but it's so complicated, they're not sure yet. There is a neurological connection where these neurons called mirror neurons that are the basis for human imitation are either lacking or completely missing. Samuel Kirk, an American psychologist and educator, explains in his book, Educating Exceptional Children, that, quote, the lack of ability to imitate motor or speech production is in fact one of the diagnostic signs of autism, end quote. Asperger syndrome is a milder form of autism disorder. And this explains the behavioral manifestations that can be seen in the classroom for individuals that struggle with Asperger syndrome. Which brings me to my second point. Children with Asperger syndrome have a very hard time adjusting to the classroom because of 2 reasons. Socially, they have a hard time interpreting figurative language. They see language very literally, so jokes and sarcasm and figurative speech goes right over their head. It's very hard for them to interpret that. They can't read social cues or body language, and this alienates them from their classmates, making it harder to be included. The second reason is, even though they're very highly intelligent, especially verbally, they have a lack of focus, especially if the subject matter does not coincide with their special interests. Deborah Griswold, a professor with a PhD in special education, explains in her article, Asperger Syndrome and Academic Achievement, that Hans Asperger, the man who first researched and studied Asperger syndrome and after whom the disorder is named, reported that, quote, his subjects failed reading, writing, and arithmetic. The exception to the failure occurred when the child's special interests coincided with the subject matter, end quote. Advocates are working very hard to create scaffolding tools that comfort them and encourage them towards positive change. Griswold explains that restrictive and obsessive interests, stereotypical behaviors, and preference for sameness in environments and routines are common in children with this disorder. Uta Frith, a German developmental psychologist, wrote in her article, The Changing Face of Autism, about a tool, a highly structured timetable that uses pictures in concrete and at the same time imaginable ways. This shows the help that advocates are trying very hard to give people with Asperger's, and it brings me to my third point, that they are able to overcome these challenges and make an impact on society. One example is Elon Musk, very world famous entrepreneur, known for creating Tesla and SpaceX. He announced one evening when hosting Saturday Night Live that he has Asperger syndrome. And it just goes to show that with the right motivation and the right help, these people are able to go out into the community. That's all the time I have today for sharing, but just to end on a few thoughts. Asperger syndrome is a neurological disorder that affects how a person communicates and socializes. They are very highly intelligent. The causes are still being discovered. They have a lot of difficulties adapting to the classroom, but with the right help and motivation, they are able to live out lives as free adults impacting their society. There's a good chance that you'll run into someone with Asperger syndrome. 2 to 3 children out of 1,000 are affected by this syndrome, but hopefully with this information, you'll be able to be more empathetic to their cause. Thank you.